Well, thank you ever so much, Ian. Fascinating insight into how you get this excellence in painting results. And you're going to show us here a few of the completed models which illustrate all the aspects of the things you've been showing us. Thank you.
Well, I've already shown you the tendons of this Princess Royal, but I'll just show you the bits, how I did the various parts of the lining. The boiler bands, of course, are transfers, and luckily on an LMS engine there are only 2. But the splashes were done using the compasses following the edge. But this lower line on this one is a transfer because this lubricator is in the way. To do the cylinders, I followed the edge again with the compasses. This line here was done to there with the compasses, but this was done with the ruler. The reason for that is this edge wasn't quite straight. There's a slight curve along here, and I don't want a curve on the lining. Even in the prototype, they pinged a chalk line across to get a straight line on a curved valance.
Yes, because often the prototype would have a bendy valance, wouldn't
That's
it?
right,
If you
yes.
follow it. I've known from my own building, you think you're replicating the prototype, but it just looks like bad building, doesn't it?
That's right, yes. And you can't do a badly built model.
So I can't even use that excuse.
No,
No.
even bent handrails.
I
Can't
know.
do that. This curve here was done with the template, the radius aid, just placed on the model and the pen just taken around there. But the rest of this was done with the ruler. The front end, we have, in this style LMS, we have lining around the buffers. That again was done with the compasses just following the edge of the buffer. The actual buffers were taken out for that. So that's the Princess. I'll show you a coach now. This is a Slater's Great Western Break Third. The painting was quite straightforward in that I built it with an underframe that came off. The roof here was done with a white primer, but obviously since weathered. The clear story is in the chocolate. So I had to mask off the roof to do that, to spray that. The sides, the cream is sprayed on first because that's the lighter colour, and hopefully the chocolate will cover up any overspray.
And this is a model you made yourself?
Yes, yes.
And you find it easier to paint your own models?
Well, I know how to plan to get them built properly.
Right, yeah.
The maroon, in the real thing, the collection mouldings around the windows and the drop lights on the doors were polished mahogany. But in the model they're generally represented by a dark maroon. So I painted this in black, each one in black to start with. And a cunning trick with the bow pen, if you lay it on its side and run it across the raised edge, it will give you a thick line. Then you can run it on its side on the inside and it will give you a dense colour. So the maroon being a translucent colour, you put it on with this, it comes on quite thickly and it covers in a wanna. The lining, because it's a plastic coach, I could leave all these handles off because they're glued in later, not soldered. So I could do the lining along here. It's quite awkward because you still have the door hinges in the way and the moulding isn't quite right around some of the windows. It's a bit raised and the pen jumps up.
I mean, I found when I try to line things like this with transfers, it's a nightmare because it just doesn't stick, or you think it's stuck and then it lifts off.
In an etched brass coach side, some of the older etches, they're really badly etched.
Yes.
They're not even parallel, some of these lines. But this has since been weathered. Generally just a very light spray of a very dark grey across the side. I waited till that had dried and then rubbed it off again with a cotton bud with white spirit on, and it goes into all the panels. So it gives a recently clean but dirty coach effect. And the ends I sprayed without masking, just making sure when I was spraying in the right direction so it didn't go onto the sides. And the whole of the bottom I didn't paint black, I painted a dirty brown colour to start with.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Great Northern of Ireland. A vivid blue. I've painted 3 of these, all different blues. The thing about this one, I'll just move it around, it has lining on the cab front. And there again, it's the faithful compasses. And you can actually use the edge of the cab to draw the line.
Would you put that on before the side lining? Would you put the lining on the front?
You ought to, because that's more inaccessible.
Yes.
You're not going to touch that
It comes
when you
back
do
to
this.
your P's, doesn't it? Planning and so
Yes,
on.
but I always forget. I always do that last, I'm afraid.
Well, I wouldn't
yes.
model anything like that.
Yeah.
So
I do it last.
that's my cop out.
Yeah, this it turns in there. That actually was done with a brush.
But it doesn't go up across the front, does it? Next, adjacent to the firebox.
Like the Caledonian
Yes.
blue, it just stops. Just stops dead. Illogical. The other line which is very difficult on this is this one here. Because you haven't got an edge to follow with compasses. You can do that one all right. That is done with the ordinary pen using this edge as the template, if you like, and you're at an angle to do that. But you need 2 or 3 attempts to get it flowing smoothly.
Presumably the coat of arms is a transfer.
Yeah, I mean a crest is literally just a few blobs of colour because they're usually so small.
Yeah.
You don't need to be too specific until you've seen one of Alan Brackenborough's, and they are superb. He even writes the motto on.
Does he?
Yes. But then he's the king.
He's one of them. There's more than one kingdom, you know.
Oh, and doing round the boss on the wheels. If you're lucky, if you've got the right wheels, you can use the nut as a centre point. I have a screw which goes on there that's been centre popped. And finally we have this beautiful engine, which is a Jersey Lily. I built this as well. Good performer, romps away.
I've seen it.
Good luck. It's because this is full of lead here, because the motor's tucked up in here. And
That's an exquisite livery, that, isn't it?
it is.
That is sheer artistry.
And here again, I did this line here with the compasses, following that edge. I polished this, so it's nice and smooth, and it just gave me a good run round. Now, what I should have done was planned how to build it, because I'd made the boiler permanently fixed on.
It would have been easier had that been a separate item.
Yeah, because I couldn't take the boiler off, I had to make a transfer to do the back of the splasher there.
And this one has the cab lined adjacent to the firebox, doesn't it? Unlike the Great Northern one. You were saying it's very difficult
Yes,
to get the...
but at least it is straight there.
Yes.
So you can do a simple straight transfer to do that. And this one I actually ledged the ruler in, a little tiny square of brass to do that line there. The line at the front of the splasher was again done with the compasses, using the front face as the guide. The other trick on this one is you've got a circle actually around the crest there on each splasher. Or behind the transfer, there's a little dot in the paint, in the metal,
I see.
which I used to centre the compass, and did that by twirling the compasses around.
But if you built another of these, you would make it separate, a separate firebox,
Yes,
separate
I
boiler,
certainly
smoke
would.
box, and then
And
bolt it together, yeah.
This isn't mine, this belongs to a customer, but he's hardly seen it, because I take it to all my exhibitions as a demonstration
I'm not
model.
surprised.
And finally, this very awkward line around the base of the dome here. There's just enough of a lip on there to follow
Yes.
with the compasses, so that was done again with the compasses around there.
Would you do that before you put the boiler bands themselves on?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, but it doesn't matter, either or. The first thing I sprayed on this one was the maroon, because that is easier to mask off than the other way around.
It comes back again to the planning, doesn't it?
Yes, so also patience.
Patience.
You get one of these built and you want to paint it green straight away.
Yes.
And of course
Model it
you've
in
got
1948. just be filthy black.
Yeah, right. But no, patients do the red first, the maroon first.
That's exquisite.
And then
really
the cab
is.
roof, the smoke box, black. Then you do the green. Then you do the inside of the tender black, because you can spray the inside of the tender without any masking.
Yes. Well, Ian, thank you ever so much. This has explained so many things, the whole series. From my fudging to begin with, where you put me right on one or two things, but I have to say it did work out successfully. I hope, well, I'm sure people watching this will learn a heck of a lot. All the materials that both Ian and I have been using, there's a list inside the sleeve of the paint manufacturers, the transfer manufacturers, and so on. So there'll be, as I say, that complete list. Anyway, it's up to you now. You've been shown by the master and the fudger. So have a go and let's see these models in a year or two beautifully painted.